Good morning and good afternoon to all the viewers of this video. This video is for educational purposes only. Our group is allowed by Mr. Roland Ardinas, our instructor, to use this for educational material only. Thank you.
So good day, sir. I'm Di Kadit Abong. So, what is a human trafficking? Human trafficking is the recruitment or transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, and deception with the aims of exploiting them for profit. Men, women, and children of all ages and from all backgrounds can become a victim of this crime, which occurs in every region of the world. Human trafficking, also known as a trafficking in the persons, in crime that involve compelling, concerning a person to provide labor or service, or the engage in commercial sex act.
Hi, good day. I'm Cadet Ferdinand S. Ruizo. My topic is what are examples of human trafficking? Human trafficking can take various forms including forced labor. Forced labor is a situation in which victims are forced to work against their own will, under the threat of violence or some other form of punishment. Their freedom is restricted and a degree of ownership is exerted. So, sex trafficking, the recruitment of harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for the purpose of commercial sex act, which the commercial sex act is induced by force, fraud, or coercion, or which the person induced is under 18. Child exploitation and forced marriage. Victims may be coerced, deceived, or manipulated into situations where they lost their freedom and are exploited for traffickers' gain. Example included forced prostitution, forced labor in industries like agriculture or domestic work, and the abduction of children for illegal adoption. It's a grave of violation of human rights and a global concern.
Three elements of human trafficking: the act, the means, and the purpose. One of the example of the act is the recruitment. Another is transport. Next is transfer. Next is harboring, the receipt of person. Next is means. Means is the threat of force or coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power, or vulnerability. Next is the purpose. So the purpose is the exploitation of, including prostitution of other sexual exploitation, forced labor, slavery, or similar practices, removal of organs, and other types of exploitation. So act plus means plus the purpose is equivalent to human trafficking. So one of the case here of the human trafficking is named Julie. One of the case of the human trafficking in the Philippines. So Julie is 15 years old who lives in Metro Manila that has been trafficked. A survivor of human trafficking. So Julie was trafficked at the age of 15, played a pivotal role in the conviction of her traffickers, receiving life sentence after 4-year trial. So Julie's mother sought help from the International Justice Mission, or the IGM. So it is the familiar from the prior case of Julie's childhood assault. So IGM rescued Julie and other from abusive bar, leading to arrest of floor manager and recruiter. So over 4 years, IGM, or the International Justice Mission, lawyers built a strong case resulting in the traffickers receiving file imprisonment under the Philippine Anti-Trafficking Act. So Jolie, now an advocate of testifying boldly, has rebuilt her life and speaks regularly at an after-case shelter. The success is attributed to the collaboration of Julie's mother. So the International Justice Commission, or the IGM social workers, investigators, and lawyers and government partners. So the government did not report the total numbers of anti-trafficking operation and investigation of legal recruitment as it did in prior years. However, it reported 168 laws enforcement lead in anti-trafficking investigation, compared with 248 anti-trafficking operations and 233 investigation of illegal recruitment in the previous reporting period. So the government initiated prosecution of 298 alleged traffickers and 377 previous reporting period. This included the 62 labor trafficking defendants, 224 sex trafficking defendants, and 12 defendants for unspecified exploitation. The government reported 1,297 prosecution, which is remained ongoing from previous reporting periods. The government convicted 56 traffickers, 46 for sex trafficking and 5 for forced labor, and 5 for unspecified forms of exploitation. Compared with 73 convictions in a previous reporting period, the court sentenced nearly all the traffickers convicted under the Anti-Trafficking Act to significant prison the parts of the world, including the Philippines. While it is challenging to the nature of trafficking, the certain factors made some areas some vulnerable than others. So it was concluded that human trafficking can be prevalent in urban areas, particularly in near major transportation hubs, ports, and entertainment districts.
Good day, sir. My name is Michael B. Nava. So our topic is to document human traffic case in the Philippines. So in this case, the human trafficking is a complex issue that can occur in the various parts of the world. So like in here in the Philippines. So I will give a, a short example, like in here in Cebu, within a Kulon. So it happens to compress the people to where they go. And while it is challenging to pinpoint specific regions as having many cases due to the clandestine nature of trafficking, certain factors make some areas more vulnerable vulner, uh, vulnerable than others. So the human trafficking can be uh, pre- prevalent in urban areas, particularly near major and transportations hubs, ports, and intermediary districts. So the Philippines is the one of the largest migrants countries in the world. So because the Philippines have many cases in have many people in this area, like uh, like for those people who wants to work in other or in one place to another. So this percentage of this large migrants population comprise illegal migrants. So it cause the people also. So some of these are victims of human trafficking. So so there are many peoples for or some peoples are victims or happen in the human trafficking. It can cause the human trafficking. So in spite of the excess of legal channel for overseas employment in the Philippines, intermediaries who offers their service for the expeditious but illegal alternatives continues to exist, and this contributes to the problem of trafficking. So this is why the people, it can cause a human trafficking in this world. So that's all.
Human trafficking and the prostitution of children has been a significant issue in the Philippines. Often controlled by organized crime syndicates, human trafficking is a crime against humanity. With the Philippines having a large migrant population, the men are used for fishing, construction, and farming. Women are exploited in more domestic and caretaker roles. Children are exploited for sex and labor trafficking. In an effort to deal with the problem, the Philippines passed RA 9208, the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003, a penal law against human trafficking, sex tourism, sex slavery, and child prostitution. In 2006, enforcement was reported to be inconsistent, but by 2017, the U.S. Department Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons had placed the country in Tier 1. An undated United Nations Children's Fund (UNICEF) document estimated that 60,000 to 100,000 children in the Philippines were involved in prostitution rings. According to the International Labor Organization (ILO), about 100,000 children were involved in prostitution as of 2009. There is a high incidence of child prostitution in tourist areas. An undetermined number of children are forced into exploitative labor operations. As of 2020, Philippines is ranked as Tier 1 in the trafficking in persons reported of the United States State Department after substantial efforts. As report published in 2004 by the Vatican stated, the Philippines has a serious trafficking problem of women and children illegally recruited into the tourist industry for sexual exploitation. Destinations within the country are Metro Manila, Angeles City, Olongapo City, towns in Bulacan, Batangas, Cebu City, Davao, and Cagayan de Oro, and other tourist resorts such as Puerto Galera, Pagsanjan, San Fernando, Pampanga, and many beach resorts throughout the country. The promise of recruiters offers women and children attractive jobs in the country or abroad, and instead they are coerced, enforced, and controlled into sex industry for tourists. Puerto Galera. Puerto Galera. There are numerous cases of child molestations that have been reported in Puerto Galera, a beach resort on Mindoro Island, 3 hours south of Manila. The area is a favorite for foreign child molesters seeking children. Puerto Galera was described in 1997 as one of the Philippines' top 5 spots for children prostitution. Cebu. In 2001, it was estimated there were 10,000 young girls trafficked into sex slavery in Cebu. What has become very obvious is a growing market for child prostitute, said Father Hines, a Catholic priest who has been involved for more than a decade in initiatives to beat the pimps and child traffickers. It was reported in 2009 that Cebu remained a destination, source, and transit area for human trafficking, where women and children victims are brought to be processed. It was reported in 2005 that Cebu had been the destination of international and domestic trafficking for children aged from 11 to 17 years old.
So, good day everyone. My name is Ian Joshua Saniel, and I am from BSMD 3-14. And my topic for today is understanding human rights in migration. So, while migration is a positive and empowering experience for many, it is increasingly clear that a lack of human rights-based right-based migration governance at the global and national levels is leading to routine violation of migrants' rights in transit, at international borders, and in the countries they migrate to. Human rights violations against migrants can include a denial of civil and political rights such as arbitrary detention, torture, or a lack of due process, as well as economic and social cultural rights such as the rights to health, housing, or education. The denial of migrants' rights is often closely linked to discriminatory laws and to deep-seated attitudes of prejudice or xenophobia. So human rights violation of migrants oftentimes happens when the migrants lack um, um, documentation so that they could cross borders from one country to another. But there are also cases, which is documented cases, in which the migrant officer or the enforcing bodies of such country abuses their power so that they could deny and they exercise their racism and practice their xenophobia attitude, in which the enforcing officer deliberately denied access to the country to the migrants, and this often lead to torture or um, extortion of money and even body, in which the enforcing officer or the migrant officer offer a deal in which the migrant could safely pass through without any or lacking documentation. And this oftentimes happens between the Mexico and US borders, in which most there are many Mexican citizen or civilians try to cross the borders of US legally and illegally, since they have much more chances to have a better life in US than in Mexico. But this situation does not only happens in the Western countries. This also happens from here in Asian countries, in which some of the let's say Chinese um, citizen tries to um, illegally cross borders to the other countries so that they could left behind the oppressive government that the Chinese citizen have, and also some of the Korean North Korean citizen in which they try to flee from North Korea to South Korea. This also happens in which the illegal migrants is subjected to torture, questioning, and inhumane um, inhumane situation by the host countries. So, in this context, OHCHR works to promote, protect, and fulfill the human rights of all migrants, regardless of their status, with a particular focus on those migrants in vulnerable situations who are most marginalized and at risk of human rights violation. So even though there are prejudice and xenophobia happens all around the world, there are organization or group of people that try to protect these migrants. And one of those um, group organization is the OHCHR, in which they try to protect the migrants using the human rights in which it can be applied internationally and can cross different countries. OHCHR promotes a human rights based approach to migration. So they use the human rights based migration laws to protect the migrants, which places the migrant at the center of migration policies and governance, and seeks to ensure that migrants are included in all relevant national actions, plans, and strategies, such as plans to on the provision of public housing after they successfully pass through the borders, or national strategies to combat racism and xenophobia, since one of the most prominent problem that the migrants faces when entering another country is the racist treatment that they receive from the civilian or from the local populace of the country. I am again Saniel Ian Joshua from SMT 3-14, and my other topic, or the topic that I would like to answer in this video, is how can you relate human trafficking to migration? So, since the beginning of time, people have migrated. We all deserve to do so safely and with dignity. Migration is not only important for individuals, but also for societies. Migrants have positive impacts in countries they migrate to, contributing to the economy and often supporting their families and local economies. But global challenges such as economic instability, marginalization, and poverty conflicts, pandemics such as COVID-19, and climate change leave people in precarious situations and make migrants vulnerable to exploitation, which is in fact the 2022 global estimates of modern slavery demonstrate that migrant workers in particular are 3 times more likely to end up in forced labor exploitations in the private sector than local workers. Migrants are also particularly vulnerable to trafficking on their migration journey, since migrants leave their country unannounced, so they are not protected by their government by the human right based laws that their country implemented, since they are traveling from one country to another. So trafficking is a form of modern slavery where a person is recruited or moved through force, fraud, or deception for the purpose of exploitation. So, as a student who is aiming to be part of the maritime industry, this can also happens to me and to every maritime students and maritime workers who would try to make a living. So, since trafficking is somewhat exploiting using deception or fraud, we can also be subjected to trafficking without knowing it if we don't know what is trafficking is. So trafficking is for us as a maritime who would like to work in maritime industry, we can be we can suffer from deception in illegal companies or illegal recruitment agency in which they try to promise us um, a good salary, but in fact they are also, but in fact they are fraud in which they only give below the minimum salary as a seafarer. People who have been trafficked might find themselves subjected to forced labor, sexual exploitation, or be compelled to work for criminal enterprises. Some might find themselves trapped in modern slavery through an unsustainable debt for bondage or through threats to their families. While migration, smuggling, and trafficking are separate phenomena, they are closely linked in immigration laws that support the movement of people from one place to another through legal means. People can be forced to take irregular routes. They oftentimes hitchhikes in trucks under the compartment in trucks, or some space between the transmission in the truck. So I have seen a video in the internet in which one of the migrants who is trying to cross the border, which is happens in Europe, and illegal migrants tried to sneak into the country while hitching on the underside of the truck, which is very dangerous. So it is the sacrifice that they are willing to take just to cross the border, making them more vulnerable to modern slavery. In short, when governments tighten immigration laws, they increase the profitability of smuggling and trafficking, and ordinary people pay the price.
Good day, I am Dominic Dale M. Carmelo. I'm going to talk about human rights in migration. Human rights in migration emphasize the protection and dignity of individuals moving across the borders. This framework asserts that migrants, regardless of their status, deserve fundamental rights such as the right to life, liberty, and security. Discrimination based on migrant status is condemned, promoting equality and non-discrimination. Access to essential services, including healthcare and education, is considered a basic right for migrants. Governments are urged to create policies that respect human rights and ensure fair treatment throughout the migration process.
Good day, Sir Ardina Roldan. Today, I'm going to discuss about the adverse effects of human trafficking to globalizations. So, we all know, as noted previously, globalizations turn human trafficking into a well-organized, highly sophisticated industry which yields huge profits. Technology allowed the industry to grow into organized crime, that is now considered the third largest form of illicit trafficking worldwide, after the drugs and arms trade. So, human trafficking poses significant adverse effects on globalizations by undermining the principles of human rights and ethical labor practices. Exploitative practices within human trafficking networks contribute to the perpetuations of a shadow economy that operates outside legal and regulatory frameworks, that undermines efforts to create fair and transparent global markets. Moreover, the exploitations of vulnerable individuals within the trafficking process perpetuates social inequalities, or hindering the sustainable development goals integral to a globally interconnected world.